There are rumors that make noise for a few days and then disappear. And there are rumors that simply should not exist, but do. This is one of them. Because when the idea starts circulating, even as a projection, that the Philadelphia Eagles may be planning the next quarterback of the franchise, something immediately shifts in the atmosphere. The debate heats up. Emotions rise. And one question begins to echo among the fan base. Can you imagine who could be Jalen Hurts' replacement? And stay with me until the end, because the name gaining traction behind the scenes is not obvious. It is not a national consensus yet, but it is rising fast. And it has already started to catch the attention of very influential people around the league. This question does not come out of nowhere. It surfaces at the worst possible moment, right after a painful playoff elimination, right after another season marked by offensive inconsistency, right after clear signs of internal wear, public frustration, and doubts that not long ago seemed unthinkable. Because we are not talking about just any quarterback. We are talking about Jalen Hurts, a player who arrived doubted, grew under pressure, led the team to a Super Bowl, earned the respect of the locker room, and became the face of the franchise. Or at least, that is what everyone believed. But the NFL does not live on emotional narratives. It lives on cycles, and the Eagles understand that better than almost any other franchise. In 2020, the organization made a decision that seemed unthinkable to many. Carson Wentz had been the second overall pick in the 2016 draft, had just signed a massive contract, and was still being treated as the future of the franchise. Even so, Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie saw something the public was slow to accept. The locker room had disconnected. Leadership had eroded. The project was breaking from the inside. And then, quietly, the Eagles used a second-round pick to select an Oklahoma quarterback named Jalen Hurts. At the time, many saw it as simple insurance, a distant plan B, a move without major immediate consequences. Months later, Carson Wentz was gone. History had repeated itself in brutal fashion. That is exactly why this new rumor is so unsettling. According to information reported by Michael Silver of The Athletic, people familiar with the organization's internal mindset believe the Eagles could indeed consider selecting a quarterback as early as the 2026 draft, not as a long-term developmental project, not as an irrelevant backup, but as a clear signal that Jalen Hurts may not be as secure as he appears. And here is the central point of this entire discussion. Hurts is not playing at the elite level he believes he is playing at. This is not an isolated opinion from frustrated fans. It is a perception spreading within the league. Executives, coaches, and analysts see a quarterback who still produces, still competes, still delivers important moments, but who has lost consistency, processing, and most importantly, the ability to elevate the offense in decisive situations. The comparison to Carson Wentz has begun to surface in uncomfortable ways. Like Wentz before him, Hurts has started to be viewed by some as a quarterback who is extremely demanding of himself, but increasingly less connected to the collective. Less of a connector, as the NFL likes to define leaders who unify a locker room. And when that kind of perception starts gaining internal traction, it rarely disappears on its own. Add to that the recent history. Public frustration from A.J. Brown. Heavy body language on the field. Quotes off the field that feel overly rehearsed. The sense that the offense has become rigid, predictable, and emotionally tight. All of this builds a dangerous scenario. The Eagles are not a patient franchise when they feel a window may be closing. Jeffrey Lurie has always made it clear that he prefers tough decisions now over prolonged regret later. Howie Roseman, meanwhile, built his reputation on anticipating moves before they become inevitable. That is why the mere possibility of drafting a quarterback early already carries a heavy message. In recent years, the Eagles have used late-round picks to develop quarterbacks. Tanner McKee in 2023, Kyle McCord in 2025. Quiet moves with little symbolic impact. But a second-round pick would be entirely different. It would be a direct message to the locker room, to the coaching staff, and especially to Jalen Hurts himself. It would be saying, "You are still the starter, but you are no longer untouchable." And now we reach the most sensitive part of this story. Because this is not just about replacing a quarterback. It is about choosing the next face of the franchise, the next leader, the next name capable of carrying the emotional weight that exists in Philadelphia. And this is where a name emerges that few fans expected to hear. But that has been gaining ground quietly and consistently. A quarterback who did not arrive surrounded by hype from the beginning, who was not treated as a media phenomenon since high school, but who has won at every level he has played. A player who went from complete anonymity to the national spotlight in a very short time. That name is Trinidad Chambliss. Chambliss represents exactly the kind of gamble the Eagles have made before, and that has worked. He won championships, he led locker rooms, he changed environments and did not feel the weight. He came from Division II, led Ferris State to the national championship in 2024, and then, almost without warning, took over as the starter at Ole Miss in the 2025 season. The results were impressive. Nearly 4,000 passing yards, only 3 interceptions, more than 500 rushing yards, 8 rushing touchdowns. A dual-threat quarterback who does not just produce numbers, but alters defensive geometry on every snap. Analysts started paying attention, scouts started coming back, and when Mel Kiper places a name as the third quarterback on his big board, the league listens. Chambliss is not just athletic, he is creative. He improvises without losing structure. He stresses defenses both through the air and on the ground. And perhaps most importantly, he has a track record of rapid adaptation, something the Eagles value deeply. Does this mean Jalen Hurts will be replaced? Not necessarily, but it does mean the conversation has already shifted to a different level. Because when a franchise like the Eagles allows this type of rumor to exist and does not rush to bury it, it is a sign that something is being discussed behind the scenes. Evaluations are happening, comparisons are being made, scenarios are being mapped out, and for Jalen Hurts, that changes everything. The pressure stops being purely external. It becomes internal, silent, structural. Every missed read starts to carry more weight. Every inconsistent game takes on a different meaning. Every conversation with the coaching staff carries subtext. If the Eagles truly go down this path, the 2026 draft could become a turning point, not just for the quarterback position, but for the offensive identity of the franchise. Because changing quarterbacks is not just changing a piece, it is changing philosophy. It is redefining leadership. It is assuming enormous risk, but it may also be the only way to avoid repeating past mistakes. In the end, nothing has been decided. Nothing has been announced. No pick has been made. But in the NFL, what is not firmly denied often gets aggressively explored. And when a rumor like this starts gaining traction, especially in Philadelphia, it rarely disappears without leaving scars. The question now is not just whether the Eagles will draft a quarterback. The question is whether Jalen Hurts will be able to play in 2026 without feeling that someone is already being prepared to take his place. Because as history has already shown once within this very franchise, when that kind of doubt takes hold, the clock starts ticking. And sometimes it ticks faster than anyone expects.